All right, welcome to We Talking About Sports.
Big up
in the soccer arena, and we got Champions League this week. As you know, that's the best versus the best in Europe, and at least for this year, we'll still have it. Next year, you don't know what's going to happen with Real Madrid, Juventus, and Barcelona still kind of holding off for that Super League, so we don't know exactly if they're going to be available for next year. But this year, it's in. And we have a special guest on the podcast today to talk a little bit about Champions League and talk about the final.
Debut podcast. We Talking About Sports podcast debut.
What's up, guys? How's it going?
What's up, dude? Doing good, man. Glad to have you. Even though we're adding another Lakers fan to the
podcast. Finally, I've made it.
He came in strong with the jersey, too. Nice.
Definitely. You got to rock that Lake Show all day, the royal blue, limited edition here. You already know.
Calmate.
Baby.
Hey, so what's up? Let's talk some soccer. Let's talk some Champions League. We got Man City minus 112, the favorite on the money line, and the comeback on Chelsea at plus 340. So Chelsea a 3-1 underdog. How do you see the match playing out? I know you're a Real Madrid fan, so you don't have a dog in the race, but from a neutral standpoint, how do you see it playing out?
Well, I think Man City obviously has the upper hand because I think they own Chelsea in three facets that I noticed. Number one, they have the better coach. He's already someone who's been proven worldwide. He's already won the Champions League and created a dynasty with Barcelona. And I think they have the better talented players. And lastly, I think besides just the players, but in particularly a matchup that we should all be looking forward to, which is going to be the Kevin De Bruyne versus N'Golo Kante. That's going to be the most exciting thing to watch because we got to see how N'Golo Kante covers so much midfield, but we got to see how De Bruyne capitalizes on Kante's behavior, considering the midfield that Man City has. So we got to watch that. But I think De Bruyne is still at the top of the world right now. I think he should be a Ballon d'Or candidate. And I think as far as Man City, they pull on all the stops, and Chelsea just needs to really, really, really dig deep. They got to play extremely well defensively, knowing that Man City is going to control a lot of the possession.
And they have been playing good defensively, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but in that sense, I think Man City, as far as the coaching, the players, and I think they do have the best player in the field as well.
Well, that's always a big plus. And I mean, the line says it all. I know, Justin, we had talked about it briefly prior on the podcast, maybe like 2 weeks ago. But now it's here. It's this Saturday. Do y'all know what time the game is at?
It's going to be probably like around 1 or 2 o'clock. It's usually around that time.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock on Saturday. I'll be golfing. I ain't going to lie. I'm not much of a fan of either team, but I have liked what Chelsea's looked like with their new coach. I like the fact that they're able to play defense and win 1-0 games. They were able to get a lot of clean sheets since the new coaching change. And they were playing very efficient. They were hot. They were streaking. I know that this break hasn't served them too well, and they didn't look very well in the finale of the EPL league this past Sunday. I believe it was the game. They lost a match that they should have won, and luckily Tottenham ended up beating Leicester, and it secured their spot in Champions. Anyway, so I'm going to ride with the underdog. I'm going to go with Chelsea. I think that I'm expecting Man City to just choke. I mean, it's only one game. It's not a series. Chelsea just got to be better that one day. They just got to have that one counter attack that they squeeze in there and hold the clean sheet. So I'm going to be rolling with Chelsea. But like I said, I'm not really going to be watching the game. I'm going to be golfing, to be honest.
Yeah, we kind of saw already, was it like three fixtures ago, Chelsea and Man City gave us a preview. Chelsea ended up winning that one 2-1. I think that was good enough to see, but after that, they've kind of fell off. Like you said, last Saturday, they shouldn't have lost that game. I believe it was Aston Villa they lost to, Villa. And they had a red card too, and that's not anybody at the top of the table at all to be losing to. So I'm gonna ride Man City. I mean, the line is where it's at for a reason. So I'm going
Hey,
City.
and let me ask you all another point that Camarada Diego, friend of the podcast, brought up. But he said, how come next year for Champions League they don't have 4 EPL spots since it's an all EPL finale? You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that that there's a couple
Because
extra
the champ always automatically gets in.
Yes, and then the thing is that the European the Europa League finalists wins an extra spot as well, and there's some lottery picks as well. But I know the Europa the extra spot went to the Spanish league because
So
they took
Villarreal beat Man U, right?
exactly. So they took the extra spot from Europe. I mean from England.
It was
And even
Villarreal, right?
like let's say in that case, like Man U, let's say they would have won, they were already qualified for champions through EPL play, right? Because they finished top 4.
And I know they do some lotteries, like some I don't know how they do it exactly, but
it's just weird how one spot can be taken by the same team, but in 2 different ways. Like if they win Europa, they're in, but they had already qualified for it because they were top 4 in EPL. You know what I mean? So I guess that's where the lotteries come in.
Someone should still get an EPL pick because they made it in either way through making top 4.
Right. Like Man City and Chelsea are both still top 4, but one of them is going to win the championship regardless. So they're automatically in, but there's still only going to be 3 more EPL teams based on the top 4 qualifiers is what I'm saying. And that's what Diego brought up.
And that's very, because you'd never really see this because it's hard to really get 2 from the same country. And I wish I can recall what happened with Dortmund and Bayern when they were both in the Champions League final and how that played out, but I can't recall.
Yeah, well, the EPL, they don't call it the top league in the world for no reason, cuz.
Oh, definitely. It's the most competitive league, and that's what the grind of it all is. It's definitely tough for them to get to the final knowing that they play top clubs every week. And that shows true testament, I think, to both squads, knowing that they got to bring it every day, knowing that they play the Premier League, they play the FA Cup, and the Champions. So it's definitely a grind. That's why I think the Premier League had struggled before because it was too competitive. But now, like I think
they're beating each other up.
Yeah, they're beating each other up. And now the Spanish league is in a huge fall down. The Italian league is somewhat in a come up again. But definitely the Spanish league, you see Barcelona, you see Real Madrid. They're not the best squads in the world. Just realistically speaking, they're on the downfall as far as the league itself.
Let's talk about it a bit. You're a Real Madrid fan. I know Justin's a Real Madrid fan. I believe Josh is a Real Madrid fan in the comments section. What do you see happening for Real Madrid? We already saw that Zidane chose to leave. He's out after a trophyless season. And like you said, they're on the downfall. They have young talent, but Diego also mentioned today that they usually buy their teams. It's not usually,
and it's like kind of it's tricky knowing that like how are we going to really recruit that Zidane is gone? That's a huge downfall for us because if anybody could have brought anybody like that we're hoping for, like Mbappe or Pogba, like the French
Haaland,
like I think he would have been a great recruiter, but I don't think he's really ready. He doesn't want to rebuild, and that's why he's out. And I'm pretty sure that Raul, an old striker, legendary player, is going to take that spot because it seems like they were
goal scorer, record holder.
Yeah, and it seems like they've been grooming him the same way Zidane came from Castilla, the lower club. They brought him up to be the head coach. He's been in the lower club the last 2 years. And he's going to take that spot, but can he bring in talent? I don't know. Obviously, Madrid doesn't have the same finances that they once had due to the renovation of the stadium. I know I read that they invested in a new stadium, so they don't have the funds with the pandemic and the new stadium to really bring 4 or 5 players. They can probably bring 1, but it's still not going to be enough to be in the top club because you see PSG, you see Bayern Munich, you see Man City. They're funded by the Middle East.
The oil people.
So that's
money ain't an issue. Money ain't an issue. It grows on trees.
So they got that in the bag. So I think definitely the Premier League is at the top with finances as well, and they got all the television rights for more revenue as well because everybody watches the Premier League instead of the league. So it's definitely not looking good for Madrid or Barcelona. And so with that being said, we can just hope that They bring one or two players to make it marketable again to bring in talent.
Yeah, they're not growing the talent they were once growing, especially with Zidane not there and Castilla, like you said. But neither really is Barcelona and La Fabrica. They're not really growing much either. So we're gonna have to make some moves. Josh said Hazard has to go. Absolutely, that experiment is over, and it wasn't a good one for us. So we need to move on from that. I'm not sure where I would like to replace. Mbappe, of course, would be at the top of my wish list, but I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. I don't know if PSG is going to want to let him go for anything other than some astronomical numbers, So I don't know if we'll be able to get somebody like that, but we also need to work on getting younger. Ramos is great, but I mean, he's up in age. I'm not sure he's going to be able to play at that high level much longer at all,
And Varane might be gone, so that's a bigger issue as well. Like
he might be the sale that funds this transfer, if anything.
True.
Yeah.
Very true.
Josh says, do y'all think Marcelo leaves soon? Mendy is the man. Yeah, I think we're seeing the last days of Marcelo at Madrid.
Oh, he shouldn't even be starting. Realistically, he can barely run.
He can barely run. Damn, he's a soccer player. Relax. All he does is run.
He gets burning the counters so drastic that it leaves us in such liability that he's an upfield left back, but he should be playing a midfielder position, not a left back position if he's going to be playing up high. He's only making us worse in the counter when we're the team that needs to counter. We need to defend and counter. And when he's up in the field and they counter us, we're left in no man's land. And that's how we lost some games this year when he started. And at least Mendy has the athleticism to get back and push forward. He doesn't have the same technical skill, but at least he has the youth and the athleticism to get back.
Yeah. Well, that should wrap up soccer, but you got the Lakers jersey on. The Lakers are playing tonight. Let's get some thoughts, bro. Let's get some thoughts on your Lakers.
Well, obviously with Chris Paul being injured, it's going to seem like it's going to be a series for us. Sadly, that's not what anybody wants. I wouldn't want to just win. So I don't want to say easily, but I obviously want to be the best with the best players. So, but that being said, as much as I am a Laker fan, there's some pros and cons to what I'm seeing. Obviously, we've been hurt all year, and we're trying to get back in shape, game shape. Anthony Davis has been so inconsistent, and we got to really, really hope that LeBron is LeBron. And so far, he has, at least the last game, he came out in the clutch, but we did allow them to come back, which is worrisome. If we're letting them come back without Chris Paul, I am definitely worried for the next for the next teams coming up.
Well, Chris Paul is playing tonight. I mean, he did play game 2. He played 22 minutes, but in and out. I mean, we saw he didn't play much in the second half, and they needed him down the stretch. That was the biggest thing that I saw. There was two, maybe even 3 turnovers in the last 2 minutes that wouldn't have happened if Chris Paul was, calling the plays as a floor general that usually happened during the season. So we'll find out tonight. I think we're going to find out a lot about his injury tonight. But if he's out, they're in trouble. I know Junior said, my cousin Gene said Lakers in 5. And if Chris Paul's out, yeah, I could see the Lakers winning out. Roland, what up?
What's up, guys? How's it going?
What's up, man?
What's up, Roland? How you doing?
Pretty good. Nice to see you, Elias. I heard your little take on the Lakers right now. You guys are sitting in a good spot.
It definitely does look like we're in a good spot just because of that injury, and it's helpful to us because the Suns were probably our hardest matchup going in any playoff. So I think it's gonna be not the way I wanted to win, but if it's because of Chris Paul, then it at least gives us some rest, hopefully, to take care of business later, knowing that the Clippers are just bums.
You guys were favorites going into that series with Chris Paul healthy, so that's pretty crazy to even think about that as a 7 seed. Like, what a gift for the Suns, being in contention for the 1 or the 2 seed all year, right? You get gifted the defending champions in the first round, the Lakers. I'm sure they were praying to God that the Warriors won that game in that 7-8 matchup in the play-in when LeBron hit that shot. Man, the Suns, their heart must have dropped when that happened. But
The Suns
Gift
haven't
or
made the
curse, but it
playoffs
was
in a
something.
decade, and then they
Yeah,
get the
and that's their
defending
gift.
champs.
That's their gift as the
That's
2
brutal.
seed. As the 2 seed.
Hey, Elias, I know you say you don't like to win that way, bro, but maybe I've just been through too much with my teams. I'll take it however I can get it, dog.
And that's
Shit.
brutal for Chris
The
Paul.
pros
too,
is that, the pros is that maybe we'll win it in 5, and we'll get the rest that we really need to get everybody else even healthier and get everybody confident. And I actually wanted the Clippers, but you already know what's going on over there. They're in complete shambles. That was what we were hoping. I think everybody was hoping for this team to show up, but I don't really see after the Suns. I don't really. I'm not really worried too much about them. I would have to really worry about what's happening in the East.
Shit, you better worry about them Jazz.
Man, I feel bad for CP3 though.
Mavs are looking good, but they don't like. I think our defense is not like the Clippers. Our defense is number 1 for a reason.
Yep.
No, I said Jazz though, and fuck the Mavs.
Oh, they said Mavs.
The Jazz, they're in a tough series with the Grizz right now.
Tired, and I think we're gonna be fresher than they are. So
we'll see.
Yep. I mean, that game was live last night. They got it down to 3, and then the big fourth quarter from the Jazz to finish it off. So
47 points from Ja. That's crazy.
What's his name? Is it Brooks? As long as he doesn't get in that foul trouble again, they'll have a close game again.
Yeah, Ja's been the best player in the series so far through 2.
I woke up and saw that he had 40 plus and said, "Damn, I missed
47 and 7."
That's crazy."
Yeah. I saw Alex tweeted, our friend Alex Rodriguez tweeted that Zion would never do that in the playoffs. That Zion ain't dropping 47 in the playoffs. He has to make the playoffs first, so he has a point there.
He does have a point, but I think Jose was even joking with him, saying that Zion was going to come for his ass. But bro, I mean,
Debo's going to show up at the door.
It is true though, Ja. You know, last year he had them battling, and then this year he gets them in, and they're not going down without a fight.
Yeah, and you know, arguably the stock on Ja going into the playoffs was maybe a little bit lower than it was in his rookie season. Because his rookie season, his stock was so high. And kind of, you know, that's what happens when you have such a good standout season. Everybody's waiting for the follow up, and maybe I thought he had a good year this year. Maybe his 3-point shooting wasn't there as much, but shoot, he's like I said, he's been the best player in the series so far. But Donovan Mitchell, when he's going, the Jazz are hard to beat.
It just makes the game easier for everybody else when Donovan Mitchell's playing. I think that's the main thing. Like everybody gets easier shots instead of Joe Ingles having to initiate. You know what I mean?
And Bojan too. He's big.
Right. But they're just better catching and shooting. Like less dribbling, the better for those guys, I believe, shooting wise. And when they have to handle the ball, it's just.
So the way the brackets work right now, if the Lakers win, they're rewarded with the 3 or the 6, right? That's the Mavs or the Clippers in the second round. That's what it looks like on the brackets, I think.
I thought that the Clippers lost to avoid the Lakers until the Western Conference.
Oh, you're right. They're on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, right.
And that's what they get for tanking. Fuck losers.
It actually makes the road easier for Luka, man. Like if Luka can get by these Clippers, and then in the second round he's got either the Nuggets who are shorthanded, or
Nuggets or Portland for them,
or Portland who doesn't play much defense, and it's going to be offense galore.
Luka has no respect for the Clippers, man. Those clips that have been going around the past 2 games, no respect. Calling Patrick Beverley too small. Before I move on from Patrick Beverley, I never want to see Patrick Beverley guard Luka Doncic again. Yeah. Like I never want to see that matchup again. Like unless it's the pick and roll, and you know how they are in the NBA, they're always looking for the matchup off the pick and roll. But I never want to see Beverley guard Luka again. It's I don't know. It's embarrassing.
No, like as far as that, like how much blame should we put on Lou for these tactics? Because you have the best perimeter defenders in apparently Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and you have Patrick Beverley on this guy? I don't know.
I agree. Ty Lue needs a lot of responsibility.
I don't know.
Kawhi got on him a few times, but Luka hit him with that little fade, and then it was over.
But the thing is, they're bringing screens galore also, bro. Like he's hunting out Patrick Beverley.
They're hunting Patrick Beverley.
It's not that they have Beverley on him. Paul George is on him, but they run screens until they get the switch. And to be honest, the Clippers
on switch.
Because they're not trying to hedge or anything. I know Roland had spoken about it. It's also not as easy as we thought it was. Playing in high school. These are grown ass men, 7-foot bodies setting the screens. So they are switching. They're just switching. They're kind of just giving it up after the pick. And Luka's just hunting Beverly every possession. So tomorrow night, it's do or die time. It's do. I mean, a lot of people consider them dead already. I'm going to believe a little more, but tomorrow it's going to be crazy in Dallas too.
I don't know they're dead in the water, but just looking at it, the team, like the way they're constructed, like it's really all on Paul George and Kawhi Leonard because they get no help from their backcourt. No help. Patrick Beverly's not scoring more than 2 points. Reggie Jackson will maybe pitch in with like 15, but that's on 15 shots. And then Rondo's not going to give you more than 6 points or 10 points. Like
and they got Kennard on a $64 million contract, and they're not playing. He's getting DMPs every game.
Sitting there.
Yeah, the team is not constructed too well. I think they thought that maybe bringing over Ibaka was going to do something maybe for the locker room, because I think that's the other thing that people talked about a lot last year was that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard kind of just ran shop on the team. Yeah. Like they practiced when they wanted. They told Doc Rivers they couldn't tell him anything pretty much. So they take out Doc Rivers, who's a player coach for all intents and purposes. He's more of a player management with the whole ego kind of thing. He's known for that. And then they move on to Tyronn Lue, who he's best known for being LeBron James' assistant coach.
And an even bigger players coach, I would say.
Yeah, he was LeBron's assistant in Cleveland. And no disrespect to T. Lue, but I mean, LeBron James was running the show over there. So it just like the culture there doesn't work for a championship for me. And with the Clippers, you have two guys in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, who you heard the stories about Paul George giving the pep talk after the Game 7 loss last year, and everybody was rolling their eyes at them. It's like you can't have those two guys as the leaders of your team. They need to lead by example. It can't be this whole we're the superstars. You guys need us to win. Everybody else fall in line. So it's a culture thing. Also, at the end of the day, for the Clippers.
Well, now that you're bringing culture, I think it's very important that you did bring culture, because that brings up the tanking issue to avoid the Lakers.
Yeah,
like that has to be discouraging for not Kawhi or Paul George, but that got to be discouraging to the other players, because now you're wimping out. That's the culture of like you want to be the bad boys. That's how they portrayed themselves to be this bad. They don't even play tough.
I mean, it's also just smart. Like we're here saying the fucking Suns got the shit end of the stick, and the Clippers are trying to skirt off of the shit end of the stick, and we're blaming them for it as well.
I just thought the Clippers should have, honestly, the Clippers should have faced the Lakers. As dangerous, as dumb as it might seem, it would have been the best time to beat them, knowing that AD is not in form. It would have been like if you get AD
they
later.
Can't stop Kristaps Porzingis. You think AD was going to have trouble?
AD hasn't been playing well. Let's just be honest about that. So if you were going to deal with the Lakers, wouldn't you want to deal them when they're recovering from injury, not when they're probably as healthy as they can be later on in the conference finals?
I think you have a point. I think you have a point there. I think if now was the time to attack the Lakers, or if there's any time to attack the Lakers, it would probably be now.
Exactly.
Just knowing that LeBron James and AD really didn't play a lot going into the playoffs. They still have that defense that's kept them in a lot of games and helped them keep their standings in the West. But now was the time to go at the Lakers. And the Clippers, the message that they sent to their players is we don't want any part of the Lakers right now. And it could be a little bit of a mental thing. I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened, but I can see what Elias is saying, and the fact that you're just kind of telling your players that you don't really believe them wholeheartedly.
Roland, like if you were at a basketball tournament, wouldn't you play it the same? Like if you didn't have to see the best team until the end, isn't that what you would do?
Yeah, I think
or would you pay your money for the tournament, get eliminated in the first round possibly, and fucking go home?
Strategically, that makes sense, but you also have to think about you want your team playing its best ball going into the playoffs too, and tanking the last 2 or 3 games, that can't do.
I know, but the Clippers played Ibaka 12 minutes game 1. They weren't the healthiest either. They're not going to beat the Lakers without Ibaka. Let's be real.
No.
So if Ibaka's coming back from being out 2 months with a back injury, why do you want to go match up against the Lakers when Zubac's going to have to be out there guarding AD? It makes sense. I understand how it looks, but it makes sense at the end of the day. I think that we would all do the same thing if we were in their spot.
Who
You would avoid the defending champs in the first round.
who gets the most blame for you in the
Ty
Clipper
Lue.
situation? Ty Lue?
Yeah, Ty Lue.
Is
Ty Lue.
Kawhi Leonard absolved of all criticism?
No, because he can stick Luka, but I mean it's whether he wants to or not. But I mean Doc Rivers coach Clippers team beat the Mavs.
Yep.
So if this team doesn't beat them, it's on Ty Lue.
And last question, Paul George. Do you think he's him as being your number 2? Is that being proven to be enough to win a title? I think we're finding out that he's probably not that guy, and he's good. And I think that he gets a lot of unfair hate because it's fun to hate on him. Pandemic P, the whole Gatorade commercial of him hitting game winners, and he's never really done that. And all the Dame Lillard shot on him, so it's fun to pile on Paul George. But he's been a number 2 a lot, and the teams haven't gone that far.
He's a number 2. He's been a number 1 and gone further than when he's been a number 2.
Yeah, he set up well with the Pacers.
But he's a number 2, bro. I mean, we were talking about Chris Middleton's not a number 2. Now we're saying Paul George is Chris Middleton. I mean, CJ McCollum's a number 2. Paul George is a number 2.
Yeah,
he's a number 2. The team's just not built right, and they're not coached right. Because let's be real, who hired Tyronn Lue? Paul George and Kawhi, so they could just keep running the show.
Pretty much. Because
we know that when the Rockets had their opening, James Harden and Westbrook, that was the top candidate. Because James Harden and Westbrook is the same way. They like to run the show.
So can I mention real quick about Paul George? Obviously, like if they fail this series, the Clippers are done for a long time because they gave up everything they possibly could to get Paul George. This is where I feel like you need to put the blame on Kawhi because Kawhi wanted Paul George, and he said that's who I want, right?
And he picked the coach too.
Bad. I'm not saying he's playing bad, where it's like, oh, he's horrific, especially right now. But I'm saying, why would you get the same type of player you are? Wouldn't you want to get a player that complements the team, maybe a point guard, a center, or something else that's not exactly like the way you play as Kawhi Leonard? It's like you got the same person you are on your team, and you gave up everything you had for the same player. That's where I kind of have to blame Kawhi on that.
I agree. I think Kawhi kind of it's in hindsight too, like, oh my gosh, like we're looking at it after he already made the move. But he was sitting pretty in Toronto, man. I said they would have been in the finals last year if he stayed there. You have to take into account the bubble and what happened with COVID, but if he stays there, that same team the way that it is, they're in the finals playing the Lakers in the bubble. I don't know about this year. But yeah, he kind of made a bad move. I'm not even saying that as a Spurs fan, but he hitched it all on Paul George, and it's backfiring a little bit right now.
Seems to not have been the right move for sure.
Yeah.
Are you
going to stay on with us for the rest of this podcast, or?
I'll stay on and listen, but I know y'all have your stuff to talk about. I don't want to intrude too much. It's always a pleasure, and I'm glad y'all brought me on for soccer and the Lakers.
It was fun having you, man.
Oh yeah, man.
Glad. Thank you for having me, and I'll see y'all soon.
Before you leave, do the Lakers cover tonight? The spread right now is at 6.5.
Yes, they're gonna win. Depending on.
Okay.
No, win, but do they win by more than
cover?
7?
Yeah, do they win by more than 7?
Show us the jersey one more time.
You already know.
Yeah, that's fresh. I like that one.
I've been with the blue team. You already know. I can't tell you, but they're my
the royal ones.
Bueno, Elias, who ended on that flex.
Yes, guys. Bueno, take care, guys.
Thank you, Elias.
Bye.
All right, guys. It was good having Elias on. Appreciate him. Got into that soccer a little bit. But let's get into some of these Game 2 reactions, and we'll start with the Heat in Milwaukee. Final score was Milwaukee 132-98. Initial reaction rolling from this game.
The Heat are done. I don't see them coming back. They were maybe unfairly picked on last year at the end of the season, saying that their road to the finals or their run to the finals was a fluke, probably the flukiest thing that NBA executives have ever seen. And that's a quote from NBA execs. They said that their run was the flukiest thing ever. They just caught fire, which is true. They were hitting threes at a crazy rate last year. But anyways, back to Game 2. I just don't see where they're going to get it from. It's going to have to be a defensive game. I don't see Jimmy Butler, having a 30-point triple-double to get them a W. So Giannis, I think he's exercising some wrongs and beating the Heat because they're the ones who knocked him out last year. And that was a big revenge point for these guys. So they weren't going to lose a series to the team that knocked them out. Especially everything was on this series for the Bucks, and they came out accordingly. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing was revenge. And Giannis is taking it personally. I mean, he's guarding Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler hasn't done shit if we're keeping it real.
He hasn't.
He himself said that he's been trying to get more people involved, and that, today is the day where he just goes out and gets his buckets and, I guess puts the team on his back. But honestly, I don't see it happening.
It's hard, man, because he's not a plus 3-point shooter. He has to get to the paint.
Exactly. And like you said, aside from Duncan Robinson, nobody's hitting consistent threes for the Heat like they were last year. And aside from that, Drew Holiday is not Drew Bledsoe, ladies and gentlemen. He's not. And Middleton is now number 3. Holiday is the number 2. And the Bucks have a decent team. I'm looking forward to their next round matchup against the Nets. But I agree with Roland. I think it's done. I think 4-0.
I saw Big Perk pick the Bucks. He likes the Bucks to come out of the East based on the way that they've been playing.
Yeah,
just because of the whole continuity thing, and I guess he's still not sold on the Nets. But man, it could be. It's gonna be interesting. But yeah, the Heat are done, and we didn't mention him, but Tyler Herro, horrible sophomore campaign, horrible.
Yeah. That's for sure.
He's not bubble hero, that's for sure.
Ever since he gave that snarl, man, the whole that look that got on Twitter.
I'll say it's ever since Jack Harlow made a song about him. I'll blame it on Jack Harlow.
And there's an article that came out. I don't know if it was anonymous or what, but supposedly NBA executives with the Heat were worried about Tyler Herro choosing to be a cultural star. Coming out in the Jack Harlow video. He does a bunch of ads on Instagram and stuff.
His girl too.
And just being about being on Twitter and all that stuff. They were worried about him choosing being a star.
Becoming Juju? Are you talking about becoming Juju?
I don't see him on TikTok, but yeah, Hero hasn't had a good sophomore campaign. But the good thing is he's still 21, 22, so I'm sure he'll bounce back.
He's young.
Ben, you still got the cards, or have you unloaded the Tyler Hero cards yet?
I have one Tyler Hero card, but I don't know. I'll keep it.
Ben had a lot.
I had a couple, but I had bought them for $40 at the time. The lot that I bought, I actually bought it off Carlos, who's been in our comments section, obsessed with the Rockets. Even though we're talking about the playoffs today, Carlos.
Tyler Herro, Heat fans at one point didn't want to give him up for Jimmy Butler. There was a point in time when for Harden. There was a point in time when they said that he was too much for Harden. So yeah, that's crazy. The Heat got to be kicking themselves. They should have made that move yesterday.
Pat Riley got one wrong, and that was the big one. So.
It was a
Should have
big
given up.
It seems like that's the theme in the East, though. I mean, we can move on to the 76ers against the Wizards. The 76ers, I mean, it seems like they're just in cruise control. It seems like the most interesting thing coming out of this series is, off the basketball court, which happened last night. But what's y'all's take on this series? I mean, not very entertaining.
No, not very entertaining. I like the bounce back game in terms of points that Ben Simmons had last night. The Sixers are firing on all cylinders. I think the only thing they got to worry about is just getting out of the first round uninjured. You saw there's a little bit of a scare there last night with J. Cole. Or Tobias Harris, he rolled an ankle.
J. Cole.
I was like, what? He's retired. J. Cole retired.
He rolled an ankle, and it looked a little scary, but he didn't miss any time. So, yeah, they just got to avoid injury. They're on cruise control right now. They're playing good. But this is a big playoffs, man, for Embiid and Simmons. And we talked about it going into the season that this is it for this group, I think. And whether or not they're going to keep them together, I think depends a lot on their playoff success. So we're never going to judge them on the first round because let's just be honest. The Wizards, they were sitting out of the playoffs in April, and they just went on a crazy run. Props to them for making that run. Props to Russ. Ben mentioned that whole thing that happened off the injury when he was walking to the tunnel. Completely unacceptable. I feel like a lot of fans just get a a lot of courage because they know that nothing's going to happen to them. They're behind the stands or whatever, and the players aren't going to go up there. But yeah, unacceptable. But just back to the game, Wizards. I thought they might have gotten one game, but they're going to get swept, especially if Russ isn't at 100%.
Yeah. And Roland, just for you to say that this is the last chance for this roster for the Embiid, Simmons, and Harris, and let's not forget who just went over there to run basketball operations. Daryl Morey, I'm surprised he hesitated in not trading for Simmons for Harden, but he won't hesitate to make a trade. He won't hesitate to ship one of those guys out. So I agree with you in that aspect of it, that this is their last run for them at least. But back to the fan thing, why is everybody always trying Russell Westbrook, bro?
It's just the way Russ is just such an emotional person and the way he has everything out there. I don't know.
I think it's because he reacts and people look for reactions. I think that's what it is.
But
I just
you're going to get a reaction. You're going to elicit a reaction from him if you do something to him, and that's what people want. And it's an easy target.
He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yes.
He's always out there with a snarl on his face. Like he's coming. He's the meanest guy on the court when he's playing. He's not necessarily talking shit or whatever, but
he's talking shit, Roland.
He plays with a lot of emotion. He's a polarizing character when it comes to the NBA. You either love him or you hate him. Russell Westbrook is one of the most argued about players on Twitter. You got people saying that he sucks, that he's a stat patter, all of this stuff. Like, he's one of the more polarizing players. So that's why people try him. Do I think it's right? Nah, it's stupid. Like, especially all that stuff that was happening in Utah. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but there were fans trying him in the playoffs during that. It wasn't last year because of the bubble.
There was a fan that tried Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
I mean, fans know who to get to, who they can get to.
But it seems like they always go after the toughest guy, like fucking
the fan that went after LeBron. Remember the Miami fan or whoever that was?
That might have been the smartest fan because we've seen how LeBron acts when he gets touched. That guy might have been onto something.
I'm just saying they know who to get at, you know.
But even as petty as throwing popcorn, like popcorn isn't really gonna hurt you, but it's just the disrespect.
Yeah, it's disrespect. You don't do that to another person.
You ain't shit. I'm just gonna drop popcorn on you. And those of us who say, it's just popcorn, if someone's throwing popcorn on you, you're not just going to sit there and fucking watch them throw popcorn on you like if it's, a rapper in the strip club. Come on, fam.
It's a sign of disrespect. And like Russell said, you're not going to do that to him on the street because if you do, you're going to get into a brawl and you're probably going to lose it.
Yeah,
if you try that. And that wasn't even the only thing that happened last night. Trae Young got spit on.
Right, that's worse than me. That's gotta be worse.
Let's segue to that game, and we can start with that. I mean, we saw Trae Young after game one kind of talk his shit and rile up a New York Knicks crowd who, to be honest, needed no riling up. They needed no motivation. They were at 100. They were at 100 from tip-off of game one. And after that game winner, Trae talked his shit. We know it's his first playoffs. He seems to be enjoying it. I ain't going to lie. It's fun watching him, even though I'm rooting for the Knicks. But Trae Young got them. We saw them pass out the poster. The chant for tonight is Trae Young is balding. And then somebody had the audacity to spit on him, bro. That's way too fucking far. We saw that ban that fan got banned, as so did the fan who threw the popcorn on Russell Westbrook. But what's left?
Sure, I mean, you have those kind of seats too. Like, think about it. Like, he's like second row in Madison Square Garden.
Who's right next to Spike?
Yeah, right next to Spike. He was sitting behind 50 Cent.
Yeah,
and you choose to spit on a player.
Wow,
like, that's crazy to me. And Trae Young didn't notice it. I guess he saw it afterwards, and he was there on Twitter asking 50 Cent if he was doing okay.
Showed it to him or something like that.
But yeah, that's crazy. But back to Ben's point, Trae Young. He looks like he loves this atmosphere. He's built for the moment, it looks like. And Trae Young's another guy that people like to make fun of, but because of his hair and the way that he shoots, he's been known as a chucker. Although I don't think that's been the case so much down the stretch this year. His game's kind of matured a little bit. He's actually been a real point guard. And that floater is a product of him being pretty good on the 3-point line. People running him off the three, and he gets to that floater. But I actually, just get into the game and what I've seen through two games. I I like the Hawks to go ahead and win the series. I think they have too many weapons on offense, too many ways to get a bucket, that their offense is going to come a lot easier than the Knicks. I think the Knicks had a good stand last night. They played a lot of defense. And Derrick Rose, man, shout out to Derrick Rose. He's one of the more deserving guys of the moment. He played 39 minutes last night, went off. But if that's what it's gonna take to win a game, then I don't know. I like Nerlens Noel, but he can't really be on the floor. Neither can Elfrid Payton. When you're running those two guys on the floor at the same time, you're doing yourself a disservice. So you need to see more Obi Toppin. You need to see more. Yeah, you need to see more Obi. Derrick Rose needs to continue being the starter. But again, like I said, if that's what it's going to take to get a W,
the most important thing, though, you need to see Randall.
It's going to take Randall playing better. He still played like shit.
That first half was slow. I mean, he ended up putting 15 and 12, but that was so slow for him to do it.
I feel you. But, I mean, they're winning games without their most improved player, guy who just got the award, I believe. What was it, last night or game 1?
I think it was before game 2.
So, okay. Yeah, so – I mean, and he played like crap again for a first half. They were down 8 or 10 at halftime. It seemed like, and early in the third quarter, the lead got pushed to 15 at one point. But they don't stop playing defense, Roland. They don't stop playing defense. I agree that the offense is easier for the Hawks, but the Hawks don't play defense the way the Knicks do, and they play defense 1 through 5. Like, it was turnovers galore in the fourth quarter. They were at home. So this first game in Atlanta will be very telling. Let's see if they can come out and steal it the way Atlanta stole it. But this is the best
from Atlanta coming into this game.
This is the best series.
This is the best series, and it's the most competitive series. And the fans, you got Trey against the New York fans. You got just the New York fans, and you got Randall. What's up? When are you gonna
Randall?
When are you gonna show your true colors, man? Because the team, you're 1-1, and you played like shit 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
I mean, I go back.
Expect Atlanta to return serve as far as the fans being just as wild as the Garden fans were.
They got to now.
They probably won't be as wild, but they're going to be wild. I mean, Atlanta's been open for a while now.
So they have to turn up. They have to return.
Oh, they will. And like New York, I mean, there's a lot of rappers in Atlanta. You're going to see a lot of celebrities front row.
Some Gucci, some Jeezy.
Yeah, the Migos. ESPN's going to be hyping it up.
Celebrities will be in there for sure. Last night, it was a celebrity fest in New York.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I look back, though, towards the end of the game. It was 91-91, and the Hawks went 0 for 8 down the stretch, and they took 6 threes, and they missed all 6 of those threes. So they were right there. John Collins, much like Julius Randle, hasn't played good either. He had 0 points last night. He's an 18-8 guy for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
So give me the Hawks the rest of the way. And I didn't get to boast because I haven't been here in 2 weeks, but
you're wrong, Roland.
I said the Hawks were going to make the playoffs in the beginning of the year.
You did say that very early.
You and Marky were the biggest Hawks believers this year.
I was wrong, though, because I did say that I was like, signing Rajon Rondo is going to help out so much. They shipped his ass out. He did
better as soon as he got traded. That and the coaching change. The coaching change was the biggest thing for the Hawks this year, man. It was
regular season Rondos doesn't work out. It's that playoff Rondo that you need.
Well, playoff Rondo ain't working in LA
for anybody. Yeah.
Well, he's not getting the minutes. I mean, look, Beverly had more minutes than Rondo.
That's just wrong. That's very wrong.
So
you can't put the blame on Ty Lue. I mean, you can.
Before we move on from this one, Justin, who do you got the rest of the way?
Bro, you haven't been here the last 2 weeks, but this has turned into a full-blown Knicks podcast now.
Oh, and it's not changing.
It's 2 out of 3.
We're going to edit out the part
I need you on. You have to give up what you had preseason.
It's not that I don't like the Knicks. I like their team. I like the makeup of their team. It's just that I'm a huge Derrick Rose fan, too. I love Derrick Rose, but
D-Rose.
Going to have to go with the Hawks here. I just like the way their offense looks a little bit more.
And jump on our bandwagon, Ron.
We'll edit. Hey, just make sure to edit that out for the playback, because, all right.
Well, let's move on to what other game 3 did we just have? It was Heat, Bucks, Lakers, and Suns. We got into it a little bit, but like y'all said, Chris Paul being out, I think that's going to be in the Lakers' favor. Do you see them sweeping the rest of the series?
Man, that's a tough question because the Suns are the number 2 seed, and they did that, being dominant the whole year. But it all comes down to Chris Paul, man. Cameron Payne, shout out to him. He's a lot more improved. He's a lot better point guard than he was coming into the league when he was doing dances on that's what he was known for. He was known for doing dances on the sideline with Russell Westbrook. And now he came in and dropped 20 points in a game 2 when his starter went down. So props to campaign.
He doesn't look scared of the moment either.
No, he's not.
I will say that.
He doesn't look scared, but he's not good enough to win you the.
At the end of the game is what it comes down to. The end of the game.
Yeah, and Chris Paul being on the bench on the end, that really hurt them. They need him out on the court, if anything, just for his presence. Like
decision making, bro.
Yeah, decision making. But he does not look like he's 100%. That's why the line was the way it was. I haven't even seen a Chris Paul prop, so I don't know.
He is playing tonight, but my biggest thing was if they double Booker, it's going to be Chris Paul playing 4-on-3. That was coming into game 2. Then we saw that they played him 2 minutes in the entire fourth quarter, and then when you got Cameron Payne playing 4-on-3, I don't trust that as much. You know, it comes down to like what they did to the Rockets last year. Same thing. Russell Westbrook 4-on-3. Kind of out of control, will fuck it up sometimes. You'll give up the jump shot. With Chris Paul, you can't do that stuff because he can hit, he can pass, and he can get in the lane and create his own shot. So he needs to play. I think today's the telling factor. How much Chris Paul plays, and let's see how many times he shoots. Let's see if the shoulder's so messed up he really can't even be putting up shots.
Yeah, and for them being a 2 seed, and I know they have some experienced players. Like they have Jay Crowder, who's been in the playoffs, been in big moments. Chris Paul's been in big moments, but that's a young team, and this is for the most of them their first road playoff game in LA against the defending champs. Big spot, man, big spot. I can see why Elias is confident in them covering the 6.5, especially. What do you think about it? I think they can cover, and I think they will cover tonight, especially if CP3 is not 100%, and you're getting that the whole game. It all, for me, what it comes down to for the Lakers is just them hitting their fucking 3-point shots, and for them,
sheesh, we can't.
They just got to hit a 3.
That's always been the Achilles heel.
They just got to hit a 3, and Anthony Davis needs to follow up his game 2 performance with another strong performance.
We had Mondo predicting 28 and 12 earlier for CP3.
Well, shoot, if he's getting to the free throw line 20 times,
that was wild.
I can see that happening again. But yeah, Anthony Davis, having Drummond on the floor helps him out a lot. It helps him not have to play the 5 spot. It lets him go out and be on the perimeter a little bit more because Anthony Davis doesn't like posting up. It is what it is. He does not like to bang down low. So as much as it, like from a spacing perspective, doesn't make sense to have them both on the floor at the same time, it just helps Anthony Davis out and from my perspective, his confidence, knowing that he can operate a little bit more freely on the perimeter. Because Anthony Davis, he was a guard in high school pretty much until he hit a growth spurt. So, Drummond is, even though he doesn't put up a lot of points, he's big for AD.
But Drummond's been doing well on the boards. He had 10 rebounds at halftime of game 2. And AD also, we'll say, like you said, he likes playing like a guard, and he did hit that dagger 3. It seemed like that 3 was the dagger in game 2 that he hit.
Drummond has a nice little across the lane little layup
shot he threw up. Some bullshit.
He does that almost every time. It's that little across the lane. If he can't do that, then
the thing about Drummond is consistency. He's not consistent for us. Yeah. If he would stay consistent, it's fine leaving him in these lineups, but you don't know what Drummond you're going to get these night in, night out.
Game 2 was the best I had seen him play in a minute. Like since AD had been back, that's the best I had seen Drummond play. Active, very, very active.
Yeah, when you look at the Lakers and you see our centers with Gasol, Drummond, and Harrell, you almost want to just combine all what they're good at into one center, And that's what I think Vogel, he likes, this about Harrell, he likes this about Drummond, and all their good strengths, he wants to combine them into one. What's funny, though, is that already exists on the team, and that's AD, but he won't play the 5. So
what do you think about
that? Throw that out the window.
Marc Gasol is a difference maker. His 3-pointers were the difference.
Yeah, and he spaces the floor better, but
when you have Gasol and Drummond paired with Anthony Davis, that helps out a lot.
He didn't play game 1, and then here in game 2, did Harrell play a minute?
Harrell didn't log a minute.
That's wild. The 6th man of the year from last year played 0 minutes in a first-round playoff game.
Yeah, I just think they think maybe Aiden will eat him up in the post, so they want
play him when
bigger.
Sarge is.
Harrell's only 6'7",
I know, but the Suns don't have a backup center. They have Saric, and Harrell can hang with Saric.
Well, let's see if he gets some minutes tonight just to give some rest out to the other players.
So you guys are all on the Lakers tonight?
Yeah, Lakers tonight.
I think the
and
Lakers
this is very
are gonna
important
win.
for them to win because game 3 and 5 to me are always the key games in the series.
The Lakers.
I think it's going to be close though. I like.
If anybody's out there betting, I have a little parlay: the Lakers and the Blazers tonight. A little square parlay, both teams at home.
Nice
Money line parlay.
Well, let's get into
talk
another.
about that Blazers series, the Blazers and the
let's pull
Nuggets.
it
Let's
up.
talk about that for a bit. It's 1-1, probably one of the better series in the West. We'll see what happens with the CP3 situation, but if that doesn't end well, this is probably going to be the best series. I know I said that the Blazers were going to sweep them last time we were on here on Tuesday. They came out and got waxed game 2. I mean, Justin, we were laughing at Paul Millsap talking about he couldn't be playing. He went out there and shot like 5 of 6, had 12 points. Everybody scored. What do y'all think? Is it going to be a series, or do the Blazers get both at home and kind of put their foot on their throat?
I think it's going to be a series. I don't think the Blazers are consistent enough on defense to put together 2 straight good games like that, and they're not going to have that much of a home court advantage. They're only allowing 8,000 fans into the stadium for Portland. They haven't had a crowd the whole year. I know CJ McCollum was complaining about that on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, saying, can we at least get some fans in for the playoffs? They're allowing 8,000. So that's not capacity.
That's half capacity.
Yeah, it's about half maybe.
I mean, Dame and CJ both played at, lower level colleges, so that's more fans than they had at their college games. That's for damn sure. But that's what it's going to be taking them back to.
And what I've seen a lot of people saying is, don't double the Joker. Don't double Jokic. Make Jokic be a scorer, because when you double him, he's going to beat you every time. That's why he's the MVP. He's the best passing big man in the league that we've had in a while. So don't double him. Let Dame and CJ take over. Hopefully Dame gives you one of his games.
I mean, Dame gave you a game 2, and they still got blown out. He was on the heat check of all heat checks before halftime.
Yeah, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Yeah, he was just pulling up from everywhere, and I mean, it wasn't touching the rim, nothing, and even like that, the Nuggets Jokic kept answering, and he had the answer, whether it was a pass or a bucket.
Yeah, the big guys are McCollum and Norman Powell. They got to come through. Those are your 2 and 3s. Joseph Nurkic, you can't ask him to do too much, or you shouldn't be asking him to do too much. It has to be McCollum and Norman Powell. They traded Gary Trent for Norman Powell.
Yeah,
it's a marginal improvement in my opinion, especially the way Gary Trent was trending and playing. But I get trading for Norman Powell. That's just, he needs to come through. He's the guy they traded for to be consistent.
It makes sense because they need a defense, but Gary Trent offensively, I think, is better, or at least shooting the ball, which they need, than Powell. But Powell was definitely brought to help defensively. But if Covington isn't giving you much and he's out there just for defense, Powell's got to give you something, like you said.
He has to, and he's capable. I mean, he's was a pretty good reserve guy with Toronto before he started taking more of a role. But yeah, those are the 2 guys, man. McCollum, I know Ben likes to talk about him as not being a good enough number 2. This is where you got to prove yourself in these situations here, because if not, you're going to have people continuing to question whether or not you're truly that guy that should be paired next to Dame, and whether or not Dame wants to stay there, the rest of his career with McCollum as his number 2. Like, does he want to hitch the rest of his career next to CJ McCollum? So yeah, big game for those 2 guys, but I'm going to the Blazers at home tonight.
I like the Blazers tonight as well, and I like them to win the series. I like them to win both at home. Justin, you're still on the Nuggets, or had you switched with me? Had you switched predictions last podcast?
There's a series I do want to walk back my pick on, but that's not going to be this one. I'm going to remain faithful for the Nuggets here, just because I think it will be a series. I don't think they're completely over with, but I do need to walk back a pick. But we'll talk about that in a little bit, because I think you might want to walk back a pick too, Ben.
Well, lead us into it, because I mean,
we'll get to that to the last. We'll make that little series in the end. But let's talk this series real quick, because there's not really much to talk about when it comes to this series. Brooklyn Nets and Boston Celtics. That's a sweep.
Tatum got injured game 2 as well. We saw him head to the locker room, didn't finish the game. I mean, the game was over with him in there. So without him, same shit. I don't know what his status is for game 3. I don't think it matters. We had Nets sweeping prior. This might be one of the only ones that we get right exactly on the games, but they're not going to drop a game. They're coasting.
Yeah, I mean, Brad Stevens, I mean, he said it before the series even started, right? Remember, everybody was making a big deal about Brad Stevens dapping up the Nets and calling them superstars and stuff. Like, yeah, the Celtics really had no chance going into this one, especially with Jaylen Brown out. It was going to take some Herculean efforts from Jason Tatum, and even at that, you're not going to have enough to beat the Nets. So, yeah, like Justin said, not much to talk about on this one. You can mark down a 4-0 unless the Nets don't come out and play against the Celtics at home, which I don't think is going to happen. So, yeah, I got 4-0 Brooklyn Nets. So you guys want to talk about Kyrie and what he said?
That'll be the interesting part is Kyrie's return to Boston. I think that's the most interesting thing in this series. Tomorrow, right, is game 3 in Boston. What do you think? What exactly did he say, Roland?
He was just saying that he's hoping that there's no belligerence or racism, because everybody knows the history of Boston as being kind of like a racist town and shit like that. But Kyrie has a good point. I mean, there shouldn't be any of that allowed. Like, there shouldn't be anybody talking shit. But I don't know. I can't speak for anybody.
Do you think it's like Brad Stevens, where you said Brad Stevens was already softening him up, like dapping up the Nets? Is Kyrie like kind of like saying, hey, this is already happening, or is he saying just don't let it happen?
He's saying it's happened before, and he even said that a lot of players can attest to that, of being personally attacked in Boston by some of their fans. And yeah, there's no place to be. I mean, there's one thing to be talking shit, but then when you start getting into racial stuff, it's always crossing the line. We just talked about fans crossing the line by doing stuff physically with the popcorn and the spit. You can also cross the line with the racial stuff. So I don't think he would say that to just stir things up, because that's the thing I was thinking about earlier today is like Kyrie Irving.
He does say a lot.
He's Kyrie Irving. He says a lot of stuff. Yeah, he says a lot of stuff. But I don't think he would be joking around about this. So yeah, hopefully there's none of that. And yeah, I think Kyrie's going to come out and he's going to drop a 40-piece tomorrow.
Damn that boy. Hey, Kyrie better be lucky he ain't playing in the old days, like when Celtic Pride came out and they're kidnapping players and shit instead of just talking shit.
Yeah.
That movie's a classic. But I'm intrigued. I think that it's going to motivate Kyrie. You're saying he might drop a 40-piece. Nets by 20 in Boston. Tristan Thompson was saying, we're not scared of them, this and that. We know that you've been a champion, Tristan, but come on, brother. You're clearly outmatched, and you especially, there ain't a damn thing you can do about it.
You know, that was a little hoorah speech, but it wasn't. It was falling on deaf ears. No one's believing Tristan Thompson right
He's
now.
The vet, so he's got to do it, but I mean, like, nah. Take us to the last. Let's talk about the last one, Just whatever you said we were getting to, whatever we were going to have to walk back.
Well, I mean, since me and you were part of the podcast this past 2 weeks, and we did make some picks prior to that, I mean, it's pretty evident we've got some right, but we're really off so far on one, and I want to walk it back now that I have a chance. And that's Clippers and Mavericks. I said Clippers would win the series, and I'm going to walk that one back. I think it's a wrap. I don't see the Clippers beating the Mavericks 4 out of 5 times in this series that's left. And a lot of people will say, well, Kawhi's out. But the other thing I got to ask y'all, if he's out, where does he go?
Well, 4 out of 6. 4 out of 6 times, not 4 out of 5.
There's 5 games left, bro.
There's 6.
4 out of 5.
2. There's 2
7-game series. There's 5 games left.
You're right. I suck at math.
Yes,
Honestly,
you do.
Can tell.
Yeah. So where does he go, though? Where does he go?
They're to the second round of the playoffs. That's where he's going to go. What are you
so you're still with the Clippers?
Yes. Until they lose game 3. At game 3, I'll raise up the white flag. It's going to be too late to walk it back. At that point, I'll just take my L if they go down 3-0. But no, I'm not going to walk it back. I'm going to stick it out. I mean, obviously, after game 3, it's going to be way too late if they lose to walk it back. So,
here's your chance, man.
Nah, Kawhi better take the way AD took his shit performance personal. I mean, I'm not saying Kawhi's played like shit.
He
He's
dropped
not
the 40
built like
piece.
that.
He dropped the
Yeah,
40
he
piece
got the
last game.
40 piece exactly, but it's on the defensive end. Like it's not because if you take Luka out, the Mavs are screwed. But take him out. They haven't been able to do it in eight playoff games that they played against the kid.
But now they're going to do it all of a sudden in 4 games out of
feel
5.
I feel you, but
Come
I'm
on,
just,
Ben. Walk it back.
they have the better players. I'm not going to do it. They have the better players.
Fair enough. But that's what I needed to walk back because I'm wrong, and I'd rather admit it now than later.
Roland, where do you stand?
I'm following Vegas. The Mavericks are minus 250 to win the series, so I'm going to go with them to close it out. I don't think the Clippers will win 4 out of 5 times down the stretch to close this one out. I don't think they're built like that.
Well,
I don't think they have championship resolve. I don't see it for them. Luka, like I said, has no respect for these guys at all. He's doing whatever he wants against the Clippers. The Clippers asked for this. Luka, he averaged 31, 9, and 8 against them last year in the first round, and they wanted that again.
Yeah.
And they wanted that again. Luka, I actually wanted to ask a question because Marky said something in our group that caught my attention. Is that, do you have Luka in the top 5 already?
He's ahead of schedule. He has more playoff points at this moment than LeBron did when he was his age. And I don't have him in the top 5 already, but he's definitely trending up. All the charts on him are uphill, not down.
So do you have him in the top 10?
Yeah,
top 10 NBA player right now today?
Mm-hmm.
I'll throw Curry off my top 5 and add Luka for damn sure.
I
don't have a problem.
Why are we going
that.
there?
He asked,
Dude,
is Luka top 5? That's why.
I don't know if you have to throw out Curry to put Luka in your top 5.
There you go, Roland.
I think I do because I would put Harden over Curry, and maybe you all wouldn't, but I would. So I mean, we all have different opinions on our top 5.
Yeah. But I like Luka as a top 5 NBA player today. Is what I'm saying. I think he's there. We're seeing the ascension. I mean, he's playing with ultimate confidence right now. He knows he can get anywhere. I knew he had ultimate confidence when he did that. They were going for the 2-for-1. I think it was at the end of the second quarter. I can't remember what it was. And he just took like a fading 3, just running down the court and just faded and hit the 3. And as soon as he hit that, I was like, it's game over.
It was like a one-footed step back.
Yeah, one-footed step back. Yeah.
Nice move.
Yeah, Luka's a bad man.
That's the future of the league, bro. Just a few more years, and he's going to be the face of the league completely. And I like the way he carries himself on the court, the little smack talk he talks to his players. I like it. I like what I see from him.
So you're walking back to your pick. You guys picked the Clippers before the series.
Because I just thought that was too much firepower between Kawhi and playoff P, and I thought, they beat him last year. We already seen this series. Now they got Rondo added, but man, I think I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Yeah, and Carlisle is a good coach too. I don't see him
Jim Carrey
getting it.
So do you all think Kawhi does leave? Or, I mean, it's home. I think this is where he wanted to be. I think it'd be easier to ship off Paul George like you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, I don't think he leaves. I think, if anything, they try and rebuild around him and get a different supporting cast.
Maybe a big.
So the other thing I want to ask y'all about Kawhi, does this take anything away, now that we've seen him with the Clippers, does this take anything away from his legacy? That win in Toronto, was it more just because Toronto had the players as well, and not so much because Kawhi was the addition? Toronto was on its way to winning something regardless? No,
because Toronto's not in the playoffs right now.
And Kawhi takes that team over the hump.
Every team needs the players. Let's not get that twisted. Every team needs the players, but the roster was definitely better over there, yes. And the coach was definitely better over there also. Nick Nurse is a way better coach than Tyronn Lue.
So this doesn't take anything away from his legacy, though?
Oh, it does.
No,
I don't think it does.
I don't think it does.
If you go 2 years,
I want to hear your case, Roland.
If you go 2 years, look. Let's just say what it was. People were calling Kawhi Leonard a top 3 player, top 2 player when he won the title with the Raptors. Mm-hmm. They were calling him that. They were saying, "Hey, this guy just went from the Spurs. He hopped over to the Raptors. He won a title. Is this guy the ultimate queen piece in basketball? Is Kawhi Leonard the guy that holds all the chips now?" People were saying, I said going into the bubble that LeBron didn't want any smoke with Kawhi. Was I wrong? I was completely wrong. This does hit at Kawhi's legacy. If you go 2 years as the alpha dog, as a guy that is called a top 3 player, ask anybody that before whatever everyone will call Kawhi Leonard a top 3, top 5 player. And if you make the move that he did, you do everything that you did to get to LA. You leave the Spurs, you go and win a title with the Raptors, you still bounce, and you go to LA, and you're hitching it all on your back, and you have 2 back-to-back exits before you get to the finals, and one against a team that you blew a 3-1 lead against.
But
I'm not saying your legacy is shot. I'm not saying your legacy is shot.
We got guys,
but it is a hit. It is a hit.
Guys not making the playoffs 2 years in a row, still considered top 5 players. But here we are talking about Kawhi's legacy's tarnished. What are we
I'm not saying it's tarnished. I'm saying it's
he didn't say tarnished. I said a shot to it.
It's a shink in the armor. It's a shink in the armor.
Ben, let me hear your case.
Just like
my case is there's players that are held. My case is there's players that are held in the same regard, doing way less, and we choose not to chink their armor.
Who was held that high with Kawhi? I just want to know.
And the team that Kawhi has too, and the team that he has too.
Paul George.
He has Paul George, a superstar with him, a superstar. The way that they're constructed, they were the odds-on favorite to win the finals last year, going into the bubble.
Yeah, last year I'll say for sure. Last year for sure they didn't do it, but I mean, like because they didn't win a finals, like
they didn't even get to there. They didn't even get to the finals. They didn't even get to the matchup with the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals.
Right. But Kawhi didn't do so much to get to LA. He just left the Spurs and then became a free agent. Like
he did a lot. He did a lot to get out.
He sat a whole year.
I mean, he did a lot to leave the Spurs for sure. But I mean, he went up to Toronto, won them a title, gave them everything he had.
Yeah.
And then became a free agent and chose to sign with the team that he wanted to.
All I'm saying is if you're the alpha dog, top 3 player in the league, you just want to you have 2 finals MVPs, your expectations are there. And like I know what you're saying about Curry too, because I know that's the player that you're alluding to. But I'm just saying the setup, the way things have worked out for Kawhi, the way that he's constructed things to happen, it's a chink in his armor at the very least. I think he doesn't have a clean slate. Like I mean, people chink LeBron for losing in the finals more times than he's won. I'm not saying that LeBron's not a 1A or 1B with Jordan. I'm just saying that he has these losses on his record, just like Kawhi's going to have losses on his record.
But like to that stuff, we can go like, how many times has LeBron been eliminated in the first round?
Never.
And then we'll say never, and then we can ask like, how many times has Jordan been eliminated in the first round? And you'll have times, and it's like the arguments are stupid if you just go to finals because one guy was bounced in the first round more than twice. One guy's never been. Like, there's always going to be 2 sides to whether the comparisons. It's give or take. It's whatever you see more valuable, I guess.
Yeah, I just think if he goes out in this round, the way that they're going out right now,
it looks bad. It does look bad because the team's gonna completely like they're gonna detonate. It's gonna be new. They're not coming back with this team. So in that sense, okay, yes, I'll agree with that because he did pick Paul George. He did pick the coach. So he would have failed for sure. He would have failed, but I don't know if I'm saying like he's not top 3 anymore just because of this. I would still consider him top 3.
That's not what we're saying. We're just saying, does the legacy take a hit?
It's not so sterling anymore.
Yeah,
because he was trending like
the shine is not as shiny. Is what we're saying.
Like we were talking about Luka, the way he was trending, the way Kawhi Leonard was trending after that Raptors victory. I mean, people were saying that he was taking over the league.
People were saying what's going to happen next year when he's won a 3rd championship with a 3rd team. People were going crazy over that.
But already. I mean, yeah, and for sure. But in the sense of we're still considering him a top 3 player, he can still do that. He just needs the right, I guess, team assembled because he's dropping 40. I mean, he's dropping 40. He's just I guess you got to go play 2 ways like you did back in 2013 with the Spurs when you won that title, right? Yeah. I believe that it was that year, but you got to lock down Luka. I guess it's got to be on him to,
he's had some shots at Luka, but he can't lock him down right now. He's not the claw no more. They're making the switch because he's not going to guard him 40 minutes a game. He can't.
And I also don't expect 40 minutes, but like the whole 4th quarter, like you know how LeBron used to do it to where, all right, in the 4th quarter, I got him. You
Shit,
know
he
what I mean?
guard Tony Parker in the finals. I remember that shit.
Yeah. So that's what I'm expecting from Kawhi. We have to see it.
Yeah.
As
Well, I
the
like
alpha.
your argument too, Ben, but I'm going to have to lean towards Roland's argument. I think it just makes a little more sense for me when I'm hearing this. Yeah.
We still
There's
got
other
one more
debates we
series,
need to
right?
have, but that's for another time.
We still got one more series, right? Or another. Have we talked about the Jazz and the Grizzlies?
That's another game too
We
that
just
happened.
briefly went over game 2 when Elias was on, but we haven't fully gone over it. But here are the odds for game 3. It's minus 195 Jazz, and I think this will be a gentleman's sweep here.
That's a lot lower than I thought. Wow. Lower than 2-1. I mean, it's right about 2-1, but I like the Jazz as well. I just think that they're just the better team and the more consistent team. With Mitchell back, Brooks is going to get in trouble defensively. The way that he did, against the way he did against Curry at times. He's just a very aggressive guy. He's going to be in your face, and he's going to get fouls called on him because it's another superstar that he's guarding. So I agree with you, Justin. Maybe the Grizzlies take one at home, but I thought it was going to be a lot easier for the Jazz. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to be similar to what the Nets are doing to the Celtics, and I was dead wrong about that.
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies get one at home. I think it'll end up being a 6-game series, especially with Mitchell being healthy. I definitely lean a lot more towards the Jazz. But I think Jaw's got a game in him at home where he's just going to will them to a victory. And I know you said Mitchell will probably get Brooks in foul trouble, but they also are playing at home. Maybe the whistle will be on the Grizzlies side for one of those games. But I like the way they've played. I thought when they got down in the first half and they came back to make that a close game, that showed a lot about the team, that they have that capability, that fight in them to come back.
Especially on the road.
On the road, especially when they're getting blown out and they fought back. So yeah, I give them a lot of props there, and that's why I'm gonna take them in one of these games. I don't know they win game 3, but I do think they are gonna take a game. But I do want to. The Grizzlies. It's crazy. It feels like they have like the same type of team, like year in and year out. Like they're grit and grind. Yeah, grind city or something, whatever their name was back in the day.
With Zebo and the boys?
Yeah, Zebo and Marc Gasol. Tony Allen, I think, was on that team too.
Yeah.
They seem to have the same guys, and they just switched out the superstars. They got John Morant, and JJJ needs to have a good game for them to win. And Valanciunas has surprised me with the games that he's been putting up. He's been holding his own. But yeah, I like the Grizzlies. They got a bunch of like misfits on their team, like Kyle Anderson and Dylan Brooks. I love Kyle Anderson.
Grayson Allen.
Grayson Allen too.
Who guards John Morant, to Mark's point? Do we see maybe when the ankle gets a little better, when he gets rolling, maybe Donovan Mitchell takes it upon himself to try and stay in front of him?
Yeah, I can see maybe Mitchell will take that responsibility. But yeah, right now I agree with Mark. There's no answer for that guy. He's playing out of his mind.
42 and his jumper's not even like that. Like
no, it's not.
He got his 42 the hard way. He's
got a really good little floater too. Once he hits that jump stop, he'll rise over you and hit that little one-handed little flick right there. I gained a lot of respect for him for that move that he iced the Warriors with. Got right to the cup, hit the jump stop right in the middle of the lane, and rose over and hit that little
let's talk about, did you all see the way he tried Rudy Gobert? That was crazy.
Shows violence, bro. He went at him.
That was crazy. Rudy Gobert said, "Yo, what are you thinking, bro? What are you thinking?"
He has like the top 2 like almost would-be dunks of all time. Yeah. I want to see him finish one of these because oh my goodness, like
I hope he keeps trying and gets one.
He's turning into one of my favorite players in the league. I'm not going to go out there and say he's my favorite, but he's one of the guys I'm taking a liking to in this league. The way he comes out and plays every night. He's a walking triple-double some nights. But yeah, I like John Moran and his future with that team. And shout out again, Dylan Brooks is a guy that I didn't think was going to be much coming out of Oregon, but he's found a way to make a name for himself on this team.
Little fun fact, the Rockets traded that pick to the Memphis Grizzlies, and they chose him, I believe, at 26. Dylan Brooks picked 26. Or he might have been a second-round pick. I'm not even sure. But like you said, a guy that balled in college, but game didn't expect to translate. And it has, and he's a hard worker. It showed.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up. I do got one last thing to ask you all. We did say Knicks and the Hawks was the best series so far. But through 2 games, who is the playoff MVP so far? Whose game have you liked to see the most? out of these 2 games so far? If you had to say, hey, this is my playoff MVP.
Luka.
I think it's got to be. I mean, if Trey would have won, you could have said Trey as well. But and weird that they got traded for each other on draft night. But with the 2-0 and especially over the Clippers, you got to say Luka. I mean,
I'm glad you said that. I know we're wrapping up, but I know I was even one of those people too, saying, "Gosh, dang it, the Hawks could have had Luka Doncic, but they ended up with trading him for Trae Young." Let's just put it out there. It's worked out for both franchises. I mean, the
neither
Hawks,
has made the second round yet.
Neither has made the second round yet, but the Hawks find themselves with the 5 seed in the playoffs. I mean, that's a big mark for them, and it's behind Trae Young. So I gotta give the Hawks some props for sticking to their guns and taking a lot of slander over these past couple of years for trading him.
It still doesn't justify it, though.
It doesn't, but
it's worked out the way it has. It's not the same talent. We can agree there.
Yeah, it's not the same talent. Luka is generational. That's not to be debated. But it's not like the Hawks are missing the playoffs. I mean, I know it's the first year under the Trae Young regime that they made it, but they trending the right way.
They got a superstar as well. At least they didn't fucking completely miss. They got a superstar.
Because Trae Young's going to be a perennial all-star.
And he's good for Atlanta, bro. He's good for Atlanta. He puts out Atlanta vibes, in my opinion. The city loves him, and
how much longer does he keep the hair?
That hair, no, and that's bro. And I mean, let's keep it a buck, man. Like, fam, you got a lot of money. Fix that shit this offseason.
You got to hit up Ron.
Go get the plugs. Come on, you got to do that.
Or just hit the baldy. Fuck it. Go baldy. Mike Bibby style.
Yeah. Nah, he can hit the plugs and get it going the way he wants it. So, but all right, guys, it was good having y'all on. It was good talking to NBA. No UFC this weekend, so that's going to be it for us. Champions League is going to be the focus Saturday. Ben won't be watching. He'll be golfing, but that's okay, right?
That is okay.
All right. Any last words, fellas?
Shoot, I don't even know who I'm going to be rooting for. I hate both teams. So, yeah, I'm just paying attention to the playoffs.
The movie was Celtic Pride, right? Where the fan kidnaps the player. And I think the player is one of the Wayans brothers, if I'm correct. I think it's the dude from Major Payne. That's the guy that gets kidnapped.
There's a 30 for 30 on that former Boston Celtics point guard, the guy who had like a drug addiction. I forget his name, but that was another pretty good little Boston Celtics thing. Just like show up to the game lit. Some perks. Doesn't even remember dropping 20 and 10.
This one was about a Celtics fan that kidnapped the other team's the opposing team's best player. It's a hilarious movie.
Y'all remember that movie with the Wayans brothers, The Sixth Man? The basketball movie?
Yeah, that was a good movie.
I might go watch that movie tonight.
I like that movie. Is the Bucks and the Heat, they already start?
That's already on. 26-16, second quarter with 10 minutes left.
Who's up?
Ooh. You say a score and you expect us to guess?
Bucks are up.
Yeah.
Chris Herron. There you go. Good shout out, Mark. That's the guy that I was talking about.
Mark's on it.
Yeah, that was a good little 30 for 30.
We gotta have a sports podcast. One episode. We gotta have a segment about sports movies. The best sports movies, or at least top 5 sports movies. Mount Rushmore sports movies for us. Whatever it may be.
It might be by section. You might have to do a basketball section, a football section.
That's true.
We
can have fun with it. We got
to do a little before we sign off. A podcast bet, because I think we're all in on this not Celtics. We're all in on this Hawks and Knicks series.
Yeah.
And we're on opposite sides. I mean, I'm on the Hawks. You guys are on the
Knicks.
The Knicks. So we got to think of a little bet here, and I'm fine throwing it. It's 1-1. I'll take it going home to Atlanta, but we can think of a little challenge or something.
There you go. Bracket movie by sport. Good idea.
I like that.
That's a good Roland. We can do something, and I still have to pay my bet of that. Just my idiotic bet of Justin Rose against the field.
He still hasn't paid. That was like 4 or 5 weeks ago.
That's
right. So I'm not drinking beer at the moment, but we can do something with this Hawks and Knicks series. We'll work out the details and put it out there. And if I lose both, then I'll pay up both at the same time. Fuck.
There you go.
I'll get you like
all right, signing out for We're Talking About Sports. The bet's on.
Peace.
See y'all.